Liberation and compassion, the two wings of the bird of enlightenment, the vast and profound vision of Mahayana Buddhism. The path to enlightenment is neither an isolated inward journey, nor a purely outward act of service. Rather, it is a union of two inseparable dimensions, liberation, vimukha, and compassion, karu. The image often used to capture this profound balance is that of a bird in flight. Just as a bird cannot soar into the boundless sky with a single wing, so too a practitioner cannot attain Buddhahood by cultivating only wisdom for liberation or compassion for others. Both are essential, interdependent, and mutually enhancing. This essay explores the dynamic relationship between liberation and compassion in the Mahayana tradition. We will first examine the meaning of liberation as the cessation of suffering and the transcendence of samsara. Then analyze compassion as the limitless vow to alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings. We will then explore how Mahayana thought insists that neither aspect can be complete without the other, culminating in the bodhisattva ideal. Finally, we will consider the implications of this vision for modern practitioners and the wider world. Liberation, the inner wing. The nature of liberation in Buddhism refers to freedom from the cycle of birth and death, samsara, the cessation of craving, ignorance, and attachment that bind beings to suffering, dukkha. In early Buddhist traditions, liberation, nirvana, is understood as the ultimate goal, the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. For Mahayana, liberation remains central but is reframed. Liberation is not simply personal escape from suffering. It is also the realization of emptiness, jnana, the insight that all phenomena are devoid of inherent existence. This realization cuts through clinging and dualistic thinking, revealing the nature of reality as interdependent and fluid. In this light, liberation is less about leaving the world and more about awakening to the truth of how things truly are. Wisdom project and liberation, the inner path to liberation, depends on the cultivation of wisdom project. Mahayana texts, such as the Prosh Paramiti Scross, describe Proshk as the direct, non-conceptual insight into emptiness. This wisdom is not intellectual speculation, but experiential realization. Liberation through wisdom leads to freedom from fear, grasping, and limitation. The enlightened mind sees no permanent self, no independently existing beings or phenomena, and thus is no longer enslaved by attachment and aversion. This is the unshakable peace of nirvana compassion, the outer wing. The meaning of compassion. Karu in Buddhism goes beyond simple empathy or kindness. It is the active, heartfelt wish that all beings be free from suffering, coupled with the commitment to act for their welfare. In Mahayana, compassion is elevated to cosmic proportions, becoming the very force that motivates Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to remain in the world for the sake of sentient beings, while liberation focuses on transforming one's own ignorance and attachment. Compassion directs energy outward. It acknowledges that since there is no separate self, the suffering of others is inseparable from one's own. To awaken without extending help to others would be contradictory to the insight of emptiness and interdependence. Compassion in the Bodhisattva, Patha, Bodhisattva's vow captures the depth of Mahayana compassion. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. This vow reveals compassion as limitless, fearless, and unconditioned. Even when liberation could be attained, the Bodhisattva refuses to enter final nirvana until all beings are freed. Compassion becomes a cosmic responsibility, extending to every corner of existence. The two wings together, non-dual unity. Wisdom without compassion is incomplete. Wisdom without compassion risks becoming cold detachment. If one realizes emptiness but does not cultivate compassion, one may fall into nihilism or indifference. Liberation could then be misconceived as indifference to the suffering of others. Mabina texts caution that such dry insight is a distortion of the Dharma. The Vimalokati Nerd Astra illustrates this point, showing that true realization of emptiness naturally expresses itself in compassion, just as a lotus blooms unstained in muddy water. So too wisdom flowers as compassionate action in the world. Why compassion without wisdom is incomplete. On the other hand, compassion without wisdom risks being misguided or limited. Without insight into emptiness, compassionate actions may inadvertently reinforce attachment, clinging, or delusion. For example, helping others without understanding the impermanence of all phenomena could lead to burnout, despair, or unskillful attachment. Thus, compassion requires wisdom to be skillful. The Bodhisattva practices upkya skillful means, acts of compassion guided by deep insight into reality. This ensures that compassion is effective, liberating, and non-possessive. The bird in flight together, wisdom and compassion form the two wings of enlightenment. Wisdom reveals the emptiness of self and phenomena. Compassion embraces the suffering of beings with limitless care. They are not two separate practices, but two dimensions of the same realization. A bird with one wing cannot fly. A practitioner with only wisdom or only compassion cannot attain Buddhahood. The soaring flight of enlightenment requires both wings in perfect balance, liberation and compassion in the Bodhisattva, ideal the transformation of the Golin, the Mabhina, the Bodhisattva. Path redefines liberation. Rather than seeking final escape into nirvana, the Bodhisattva takes a vow to remain in samsara until all beings are liberated. This is not because the Bodhisattva clings to suffering, but because wisdom reveals that the distinction between self and others is illusory. Liberation and compassion thus merge. To liberate oneself is to liberate others. To liberate others is to liberate oneself. The Bodhisattva's enlightenment is inseparable from universal liberation. Exemplars of the two wings Maju are Bodhisattva embodies Praj, the wing of wisdom of Alakativa. A Bodhisattva embodies Karu the wing of compassion. Together, they represent the inseparability of the two. The Buddha himself is depicted as the perfect union of wisdom and compassion, guiding beings through Dharma with boundless love and profound insight. Implications for modern practitioners. Personal practice for modern practitioners. The two wings provide a profound framework. Meditation on emptiness frees the mind from attachment and delusion, while cultivation of loving kindness and compassion ensures that practice remains open-hearted and engaged with the world. A balanced practice avoids both cold detachment and sentimental clinging. Engaged Buddhism in today's world of ecological crisis, social injustice, and global suffering, compassion guided by wisdom becomes essential. The vision of engaged Buddhism, pioneered by figures such as THCH, NH, is rooted in this union, acting to relieve suffering in society while grounded in non-attachment and mindful awareness. Beyond individualism, the two wings challenge modern individualism. Liberation is not merely about personal peace. Compassion shows that one's awakening is bound to the awakening of others. Similarly, compassion is not about saving others from a position of superiority. Wisdom reveals that self and other are interdependent. Conclusion: the image of two wings of a bird captures one of the most profound teachings of Mahayana Buddhism. Enlightenment requires both liberation and compassion. Liberation without compassion is incomplete. Compassion without liberation is misguided. Only when wisdom and compassion are cultivated together can the practitioner soar into the vast sky of Buddhahood. This vision transforms the meaning of enlightenment itself. It is not a solitary escape from suffering, but the flowering of a heart-mind that embraces all beings. Liberation and compassion, as the two wings of the bird, carry the practitioner beyond duality, beyond self and other, into the boundless freedom of awakened life.